So I think that the Institute Day was very good and it was a success. The strategic plan. We're going to come back to the strategic plan right here. Summer projects. Mr. Majors have given me an update on summer projects, but all summer projects have been taken care of and looked at. We completed the washroom fixtures and water fountain repairs. We refinished the gymnasium floors, HVAC preventative maintenance, and also electrical tracing and labeling. At Seton Prairie, we conducted exterior tuck pointing repairs, new emergency lighting fixtures, new building, HVAC software and hardware, HVAC preventative maintenance, and HVAC classroom repairs. Margate, we repaired the sidewalks that have been crumbling, so those were repaired or replaced. The teacher lounge was remodeled. Electrical tracing and labeling and mixing valve replacement for the lead in water. At Code Power, we finished the gymnasium floor with HVAC software and hardware, electrical tracing and labeling, the kitchen grease trap cleaning and repairs, and new water backflow safety devices were installed. At Neil Armstrong, new gymnasium wall mat installation, replacement stair treads, replacement ramp flooring, water main repair, electrical tracing and labeling, and mixing valve replacement for lead and water compliance. And lastly, at the district office, we did some HVAC preventative maintenance, new flooring, and new workstations, and some paint. Next one, okay. We can talk about the 150th day. Miss Friday, 150th day, in the board.
Good evening, everybody. So, this month marks our 150th year anniversary. 150 years ago, I think it was August 17th, the first school was open, where we now have our current administrative building. It was a two-room schoolhouse. Now we have 5 schools. So, all during the year, we're going to celebrate our 150th anniversary. We're going to kick it off this Saturday with the parade, leaving Woodgate, and going to the Central, ending up at Golden Pie. At which point, we will have a fun festival and a resource fair. So if you guys are interested, you can always use more help, and you're always invited to attend. During the whole school year, we're going to celebrate this 150th anniversary. We plan to have a gala in October or early November. Ms. Palmer wanted me to state that the Jesse White Tumblers will be attending as well. We have the police department, the fire department from both municipalities. We have Southland Child Prep. We have the cheerleaders from the Madison Bears and the Richmond Parkway Raiders. And of course, we have our own students. So you guys are welcome to attend and be a part of our celebration. In our cafetorium, we have banners that represent each of our schools, and we'll be putting them in each of the schools to celebrate our 150th year. Any questions? Oh, we also have DJ High Ride, who is a very popular DJ. I don't know what my daughter does. He's from 92.3, and he has been featured on every local TV show. I checked him out. He goes to different schools within the city of Chicago. and everyone seems to like him, so he's really excited about coming out in the South suburban area. In addition to that, earlier this month, Dr. Alfred, Ms. Palmer, and myself attended Tinley Park Village Board meeting, and they did a proclamation celebrating our anniversary, and they proclaimed August 17th as School District 159 Day in their community. We also have resolutions from the village of Richard Park, Madison, Congresswoman Robin Kelly, and Senator Hastings. Thank you. Any questions? And Mayor Chalmers from the village of Madison.
Thank you, Ms. Ryan. You're welcome. Also, in your packet board, you have a tentative budget that we will be seeking approval for tonight. Recall that the budget has to go on display for 30 days, and it has to be approved by September 30th. So we are kind of on a tight framework because Ms. Brown started with, as well as she got sick after she started. So we want to make sure that we follow the state protocol for our funds are released at the time we have the state. And see what we're at we also have fact finders here. We spoke about a forensic audit, and I did ask them to come and do a brief presentation for us on the companies that we looked at really closely, and come to do a forensic audit so we can determine whether there was a fraud made in our system. So, Dr. Webb.
Thank you so much. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I wish I was a doctor, but that's okay. I'll take the accolades. My name is Kenneth M. Webb, Sr. I'm the president of Fact Finders Group Incorporated, a research and investigative firm. Mr. President and Madam Superintendent, ladies and gentlemen of the board, we truly extend our gratitude and thanks for giving us this opportunity to make a presentation to you this evening. Our firm, Fact Finders Group, Inc., is a research and investigative firm located in Madison, Illinois. So we're part of your community. We engage in live scan fingerprinting, investigative services, and forensic auditing, along with several other criminal activities or investigations. I have with me my lead forensic investigator, Mr. Vincent Williams.
Good evening, everyone. How are you tonight? It's a pleasure to get an opportunity to come out and at least speak with you all. We are, as he says, an investigative firm, and also we conduct forensic audits. Hopefully, we'll have an opportunity to serve you in that aspect and get a chance to show you what we can do. I'm not sure at what point you are in your need for our services, but I can tell you we are a very good firm. We provide good services to everyone, and I'm certain that you'll be happy with our services. If you have questions that you'd like to ask of us, certainly I'm prepared to answer anything I can, and I'm sure that Mr. Webb will also.
So one of the things that's really important is to understand what our team consists of. Our team consists of certified fraud examiners. A lot of them come from the federal agencies, especially the Internal Revenue Service. We also have certified public accountants on staff. So are there any questions?
Any questions for fact finders?
Well, I'm a retired Chicago police officer. I'm a licensed private detective, a licensed security contractor, a licensed fingerprint agency, and I've had 22 years experience in business. We have conducted investigations, forensic audits for many school districts in the south suburban area. Namely 156, 149, and the Echo School District.
And I am a retired criminal investigator for the Internal Revenue Service. I'm a certified fraud examiner. I am the former head of office for the Houston field office of the Internal Revenue Service, and also for the Cleveland field office of the Internal Revenue Service. I was a federal agent for over 35 years, conducting investigations in murder, organized crime, of course, money laundering, and all the other investigations that are covered by Title 26 of the United States Code. Oh, bachelor's degree in accounting, too, Mr. Chairman.
I didn't name my degrees. I have a master's in public administration, so I thoroughly know what it is for public institutions to have to go through the budget process, and also understand how important it is for you to have integrity throughout your financial needs. Any questions? Well, what we have done is we have submitted a proposal to the president and the superintendent. And once we are retained, then we will go through a battery of questions relative to what is suspect. Once we have that, then we'll go through a normal audit, and Vince will tell you more about how we'll do that.
Well, like he said, once we are retained, we of course interview all the principals involved, because we need to know exactly where we should be focusing our attention. As you know, financial situations are so broad, we could be doing this for years and years to come, but I know we don't want to do that. This should be specific and tailored to those areas where there are questions about red flags or questions about things that may have occurred in your organization. So we conduct a thorough interview of all the principals, at that time focusing our attention on those areas of concern. At that point, we would review documents. First of all, we would request documents. Review documents, talk to the people involved, and at that point, make our analysis, and then provide a very thorough report.
Let me just be clear, when you say principal, you mean, we're not talking about principals of the building. I just don't want to
Just to clarify, when I say principals, I mean all those people who may have an interest or may have some control over documents or areas of concern. Is that okay?
I just don't want the principals to feel that you were.
Oh, no.
To put it simple, it's the subject of the investigation.
Okay.
Anybody that may.
I knew that, I was mentioning that.
No, we do not recommend criminal charges. We would write a report to the board, and the board can then do what they deem necessary with our report. It will include our findings and recommendations for correcting any areas of problems that we find. You need to.
This is an official document. And it will be your official document for what we disclose. And that may require additional agencies involved and additional investigative work. Any other questions?
Yes, I have a question. So what are you investigating? Children, parents, households? Are you all hired now that our board hired you? Is that what you all saying we hired you or we need to hire you? What are you exactly investigating? Because we've been here, like I said, 150 years. So what is the investigation? I'm just trying to figure out, are we going to have police on the ground? So are we going to, what is it that you all are digging for? I mean, where are the bones at? You trying to find some bones buried, or because you can find a lot what exactly are we talking about hiring a detective agency for?
We will be looking at books and records relative to impropriety. And not necessarily looking for impropriety, but making sure things are in order. And if there's something of an impropriety nature that surfaces, we will expose that and we will delve deeper into it. But we need to know what's going on. And that's what we will be basically doing. Telling you how the records and books are being done.
Okay, so I'm still confused. I'm sorry, but we had like a forensic audit to tell us where things need to be in one point. I mean, this is, maybe Mr. McClinton or somebody would like to tell me exactly why are we hiring you? Because I need to know. I mean, are we investigating parents that don't live in the community? What exactly are we investigating? I mean, all of a sudden, we need to be investigating. I'm just curious. Not that I'm guilty of anything, but you never know. I do some little crazy things, but I want to know.
I think this is McClinton and the superintendent better answer that question as to what it is.
What we're looking at bringing the forensic audit team into the district to do is to take a look at our books over the last 8 years or so to make sure that we have no improprieties, that there's no money missing. We've had a lot of changeover as far as our business office and different things. There be some things that may not be right. So I think we need a forensic audit, and I think the superintendent agrees with me that we need to take a look at it.
Okay, so I've been on the board 9 years. and
Okay,
we've
we need to go
had
back
several-
9 years.
Right, close to 9 years, so we've had forensic audits. We've had people that came in and looked at different things as far as like, for instance,
Regular state audits.
yeah, and like when Polar Power was built, we had this building, I think it was $20 million, and now we've almost paid in essence of maybe, what, 50 million, I think by 2036, we're gonna pay $100 million for this school. So would you, I'll give you something to do, would you be able to go into the books and find out about the bonds, the non-payable bonds, that we hired a company to finance this school, but for some strange reason, we're paying $1.4 million in interest for this school when we should not be doing that out of this community. That's what we're doing right now. And somehow most districts hire people that will give us callable bonds that can be paid in a certain amount of time, but we got stuck with some kind of non-callable bonds. And so we've been taking, because $20 million to build the school, close to $50 million we've already paid into the school, and close to $100 million. I don't know the numbers, but it's more than $20 million. So if you could really pour in on that, I've been asking that for 9 years. That would be something.
Could you repeat exactly what it is that you
Well, I'll write it down.
do? Give us a summation.
And we'll make sure that the question gets answered.
Yeah.
Sure, we can make that part of the whole, it's up to those who guys and tyrants to determine what it is we do.
Okay. Yeah, that was my main.
Thank
Thank you.
Any other questions?
you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, gentlemen. Mitchell here. No, but in your packet, you have a proposal from Mr. Mitchell, he's supposed to be here to, talk about it. So I guess we can look at it, take a look at it, and we will refer that to the next meeting. Lastly, before we go into the strategic plan, I'd like to talk about the Board of Education Committee of the Whole. We've talked about going to the Committee of the Whole and going from having various committees to This way everyone is at the meeting, have the opportunity to come to the meeting and get the information. So I do agree and support Mrs. Morgan in that. It's only action items. Next, while do you have any talking points you want to start Okay. Let me just start by introducing Dr. Connie Collins and Dr. Ken Arndt, who were the consultants that worked with us on our strategic plan that we just finished. We all have a strategic plan in front of you. And Dr. Arndt and Dr. Collins is going to give us an overview of their findings as they have various meetings and focus groups. So the screen is coming in, so we're going to get started. It should be set up in just a second. I do apologize for the miscommunication.
No problem at all. We're just happy to be here. We're happy to be at this point in the process. And so thank you, board members, for having us here. I'm Connie Collins. And both Ken and I represent HYA. I have been a superintendent for 16 years, retired June of 2018, after being superintendent in Round Lake for 8 years. Prior to that, superintendent in Oak Park for 5 years, and prior to that, superintendent in Zion District 6 for 3 years. Ken has been a superintendent for 20 years. He was superintendent in Carpentersville 300, superintendent in Decatur, and most recently he served as superintendent in Elgin. And so we have had an opportunity to work with your community, with your staff, with you as board members, as well as your administrators, and it's been a real joy. And so we're happy that we're now at this point and we have an opportunity to share what we discovered during the many meetings and interactions that we had with your community members. We also had an opportunity to talk with your staff this morning. Wonderful back to school staff meeting, and it was good to see all the teachers, custodians, and you could feel the excitement in the air as everybody was coming and ready for the kiddos to walk through the door and to start that first day of school. So we're indeed grateful to have been a part of that. And we let them know that what they heard this morning was tentative, because until the board hears it and approves it, that's where it stands. And so we are excited and hoping that as a result of our sharing, and we invite any and all questions that you may have for us, so that you know exactly what it is that your community has said, what your staff has said, and what the direction is that the district is going in. I think we're getting close over there, and that's a good thing because we would roll at this point. So fantastic. I really want to take this opportunity to thank the board as well as the community for allowing us to be a part of the strategic planning process. It was, as I indicated, we thoroughly enjoyed it, and we were able to facilitate as we worked with your district staff and others in the community. Tonight's objectives are that the board members will have detailed knowledge about the strategic planning process and the outcomes of the process. That we also will be able to discuss and acknowledge acceptance of the Matson District 159 strategic plan for the years 2019 through 2023. So this is a 4-year plan, and I think we're just about there. Please feel free, if you have questions, to ask questions at any time during the presentation. We'll keep moving on. Here's what has happened in the last 68 days. And we worked with this for 68 days, and we followed the schedule which was set by the superintendent and her team at the planning meeting that took place on May 3rd. The goal is to have the plan approved during the August board meeting, and we are here at the August board meeting, and to have a completed document before the September start of school. On the next slide, you will have some details, but there will be 7 bullets that I will go through that outline what we did to get to tonight. What you have in front of you is a draft copy of the strategic plan, and that's what the final document will look like pending board approval.
Did everybody see?
If I need to move over, I can. Is it better for me to move over? I can do that. That's not a problem at all.
I'm sorry.
Listen, I do what I need to do to make it happen. Okay, great, fantastic. Yeah, that's my way. Thank you so much. Okay, great, wonderful. If it's easier for me to come over here, I can come over there. They're all the same.
They're all PDI.
We'll keep going while we're waiting to get this set up. We want to thank all of the staff members who participated with us, who assisted in facilitating our time in the district. With special thanks to Dr. Alfred and Mrs. Sheila Friday and other staff members for their extra efforts in making us feel welcome, really providing access to everything that we need in order to really make this a successful process.
We apologize for our technical difficulties, but again, we truly appreciate being here, as we've mentioned to others. This is an act of courage for your school district. A lot of school districts do not want to do what you just did because we do air your deep laundry. We basically share what people told us, and they were very open with us, and they shared that they really want 159 to get back to the days where it was a destination district, where the focus of the schools and the school board was on students, not on adults. And that was loud and clear, all across all the focus groups. We had a very large group of people that came on their time to let us know what they thought about your school district and how they can make, how you feel they can make it better. And we also had an online survey, which was in English and in Spanish. And so based upon data of that online survey, plus the information that we got from the focus groups, is the basis of our recommendations tonight. And just before we go on, we listened to trends. So everybody had a concern, but we listened for that concern repeatedly across the board. And so that's what made us focus in on some of these very specific recommendations. So the bottom line, there were 177 people that did the online survey, but there were 145 persons that came out and met with us for at least an hour, telling us what they would like to know about it.
And in addition, there were 24 individual participants. So altogether, there were 338 participants that we heard from for the strategic planning activity.
Again, this was in English and Spanish. 177 people participated in the online survey. And also, all this information that we are sharing with the board tonight, once the board approves, will be a public document. So anybody can look at this information. Generally, school districts places information on the district website, so people can read exactly what our recommendations were and exactly how the various stakeholders felt about the issues. Regarding the online survey, you'll notice that the students had a significant different perspective on the school district than the adults. And there's also a very significant difference between the perception of the parents and of the teachers. In fact, so much so, it was constructed so as a 20% difference of opinion between parents and the teachers regarding academic rigor and what the students are capable of doing. We also interviewed the board members individually. We also interviewed administrators from 27 and also from other community members surrounding us. So total again, once again, 145 people. We looked at the interview district administrators, district staff, district employees, the superintendent's advisory committee. We're pulling out 8th grade students, which were very open, community members, and also elected officials.
One of the questions that we asked everybody that we interviewed, what do you want or what do you believe that a student who is finishing 8th grade here within the district should look like? And we call this the portrait of a District 159 graduate. And so we wanted to know at the end of 8th grade, District 159 students will. And they said they believe that every student that finishes in this district should be mindful and respectful, accountable for their actions, bilingual, competent and goal-oriented, knowledgeable in core subjects, digital and financially literate, have great oral and written communication skills, be organized, have time management, resourceful, resilient, and responsible decision makers. In addition, students who are finishing within the district should have a healthy perspective of self and relationships with others, be critical thinkers, enjoy learning, have a global life perspective and a need to contribute, love others and forgive, have a strong moral compass, collaboration skills, and be college and career ready.
And you have many areas of strength. The first one, without any question, and it was across the board, this community loves the music program. No question about it. They love the music program, they love the band program, and they are very, very grateful because that has set you apart from other school districts. Likewise, the kids especially are very appreciative of the athletics and the extracurricular activities that you provide. We've heard a number of times where community members are appreciative of the teachers that show up at some of these events and certainly they're not being paid for. And also, the community told us that they're very appreciative of the strong working relationship we have with the local police department. And they feel that the schools are all very safe, and safety is an utmost concern. And lastly, technology and infrastructure. Although we're having difficulties tonight, the staff, and especially the students, told us, because we ask certain questions of students that we normally don't ask of the adults, because the kids will tell us exactly what they feel. And we were kind of hoping, we were thinking that they're going to say, oh, it doesn't work, oh, the firewall. They said, no, it was great for us. We were our assignments. They're very appreciative, and they enjoy working on their laptops or on their tablets for their assignments. Now, here are the areas of growth. And again, as I mentioned to the staff, don't shoot the messengers. But these are the things that we feel that you really need to work on. And if you work on it for the strategic plan, you will definitely be a destination district in a few years. The first one being, and it's in alphabetical order, you feel it's our recommendation that you need to increase academic rigor and academic expectations. The teaching staff feels everybody's doing fine. The parents do not. The parents are concerned that there's wide differences in how grades are issued, and there's also a wide difference of opinion in terms of how successful your students are in high school. The parents told us loud and clear they wish to see increased academic rigor and higher academic expectations. They also told us they would like you to more seriously address the achievement gap. The students told us specifically that the adults are not paying attention to their social and emotional needs. In fact, that is their number one concern. They've also, the community told us loud and clear, that they're tired of the local politics, the bickering, the adult issues, focus back on the kids, the students, and give us a vision for the future that's focusing on students and not adults. And across the board, they said they're concerned with the selection and retention of the teaching and the administrative staff.
Following the stakeholder input, when we take a look at student achievement, we identified the following areas. As we said, we took a look at all of the data, all of the comments, the online survey, etc. And this is what we came up with. And this is where we saw some strong information that made it very clear that this should be a focus moving forward. And you can see the grade level professional development, needing to partner with the high school district. And so there, and even when we talked with the administrators at the high school district, they indicated a strong desire to work with the teachers within District 159. A data-driven gifted education, really, how are decisions being made about gifted education? Is it based on, and how do you define success? So is the program successful, and how do you determine that it's successful? And does everybody know what criteria you look at to determine success? So really looking at the data to decide, are those kids achieving at a higher level than other students within the district? Are they achieving at the same level? What's the impact of the gifted education program? We mentioned the social emotional needs, a long-term plan for dual language programming. I know that that's something that you are definitely looking at and have some strong concerns about, but there's a belief in the community as well as staff within the district that this be a program that begins at kindergarten and goes all the way through so that the children are really bilingual by the time they finish 8th grade. We examined the role and responsibilities of instructional coaches and support leaders. Everybody was not sure what it is that these individuals do and what do their jobs say that they should be doing, because they see variation across buildings. Define student success. When you take a look at a student getting to the end of kindergarten or a student getting to the end of 1st grade or any grade, what does the district say that a student should be able to do by the time they finish that grade? So as they say, how do you define success? Success is if a student is able to do A, B, C, and D. Then we know that we have been successful and the students have been successful. Equip students to be proficient in 21st century learning skills. That came across time after time after time. And we'll talk more about that. The second major area is transparent communication. We heard this repeatedly, that there is not enough communication between the buildings, between the teachers, within the district, going on to the community, etc. So that came across loud and clear that there is a desire to distribute communication on a regular basis, have social media, which showcases students as well as staff, meaningful regular meetings with community organizations. We have a lot of community organizations that really, they were saying, we'd like to see school district personnel and others out in the community and talking with these organizations. And there seem to be a lot of organizations that want to assist the students and need to know how you can partner together. Frequent email blasts that go out to parents, etc., so that they know what's happening in the district. It was also mentioned, and it came across a number of times, televising the board meetings and wanting to move in that direction. Here again, as you talk about transparent communication, that was an area that was mentioned. Develop internal, external communication plan. The question, or we have a number of individuals who said we don't have a communication plan for the district, and we would like to see what are we saying communication should be like within the district, as well as between the district and the community. Implement district policy on 24-hour communication, so that if somebody asks a question, that within 24 hours they get an answer, and they're not having to wait over a long period of time. And then an online FOIA request and responses, and FOIA is Freedom of Information Act requests, so when those come in, how are we responding, and are we aware that those FOIA requests are being made?
Another area that was of significant conversation was regarding your business operations. And people realize that we've had way too many people occupying that chair. We're going to get this evening. We need to have stability. And now these recommendations are based upon what we heard. We don't have any proof, but perception is reality. And we heard tonight that there's going to be a fiscal forensic audit. We heard that. Your community wants it. There is way too much controversy in the community regarding how funds have been spent in the past. We're recommending that you also engage in hiring another firm to help you with your financial planning. There are firms in the Midwest that help school districts adequately prepare for the future. They say they look at all your data, and they also look at state, federal, and local funding sources and say, based upon your spending pattern, this is what you need to be prepared for in the next few years. And they also give you advice in terms of how to better invest your funds. And it's a company that both Connie and I have used, and many other companies, school districts in Illinois have used also. We are also recommending that you seriously look at auditing or having a request for proposal of all contracted services. From transportation to custodial to food service to legal. We've heard that you've used these firms for so many years, you become complacent. And people are not real pleased with the services that have been provided. And it's across the board. It's from the employees to the community at large. And Connie and I have done this in the past. And when you even just engage, okay, we're going to see who else is out there that's interested, those services will automatically improve. And you'll also find out, are you paying enough for those contracted services, or is there another provider out there that will do it cheaper, such as for food service or for transportation? We're also recommending that you have online a human resources guide, so your employees know exactly what are their benefits and exactly where do they go for a variety of human resource situations, and that would be online. We recently conducted an Illinois State School Board official audit. We recommend that you seriously engage in those recommendations. It is a very well-respected organization, and their findings, we feel, will help you become a much stronger district. The employees told us they are very upset with how their concerns are not being addressed in human resources. And it's because if one person is absent, nothing gets done until that person comes back. And it could be for 2 weeks or longer. So we're recommending that there be more cross-training in the central office so people can get their answers back. I will also share, Connie and I heard this across the board, that there needs to be a policy on nepotism. The community is very upset. The staff is very upset at how some persons have been hired because of who they are related to. And likewise, there is a strong sense of unrest in terms of how some people are receiving salary increases that they're not entitled to. Again, perception is reality. Is that true? We can't tell you, but your community is upset about it. And lastly, the employees would like to have a better means of communicating to the central office and to the board regarding how they feel their concerns can be better addressed and needs to be better met.
Century learning environment. During the course of the conversations that took place, knowing that the district is really wanting to be a district that is preparing kids for 21st century learning, for the workforce, as we talk to community members, as we talk to those at the high school, feeling that there is a need to better prepare the kids with those 21st century skills. So that information came out. And so when we take a look at basically the committee that worked on the action plan, identified ensuring that the school district infrastructure can support 21st century learning, establish training and development for all stakeholders aligned to 21st century technology, integrating 21st century technology into the curriculum, and establishing checks and balances for 21st century. You can have a lot of technology, but how is it being used? Is it being used at a high level where students are really learning how to integrate it and staff are learning how to integrate it into the curriculum? Or is it being used at a low level where maybe there's word processing and skills that are very general skills but not high level skills that will really prepare the kids for high school as well as the workforce?
The district recently had a group of people looking at, let's look at the new mission statement and the vision statement with 11 persons from around the community who are part of that process. And again, we feel that it needs to be examined. And again, the board should seriously adopt these when it gets to be a board decision. In the core values, once again, as we just mentioned, the community, the staff, they said, we've got to get back to students. Make everything student-centered in 159. That's the reason why we're here in the first place. Let's look at more transparency. That's quite clear in terms of communication. Let's become more of an innovative district and with high integrity. Let's respect each other. Let's also hold everybody accountable. And let's also increase the partnerships that we have in our community. You have many, and the community would like to see more. So keep a good thing going.
In order to get the work done, you have to have a plan. So these are all great things that we talk about, but then how do we move from point A all the way through to point Z? It means having a plan. Having a plan means that you have goals, that you have a way to measure those goals, which are metrics, that you have objectives, which really takes the goals and breaks them down into smaller components. Then you have actions, which are even smaller than the objectives, and it says, how are we going to get to those objectives? that there is a timeline. If there's not a timeline and you don't say that we're going to accomplish something by a particular time, it goes on forever and then it falls off the radar. There are persons who are responsible. If there's no name associated with a project, then nobody assumes responsibility for it. So it's got to be that somebody is identified as being the person responsible for that goal, that objective, that action step. And then resources. Resources are required. The district has resources. So which resources will go to support which of the goals, objectives, and the actions? These are the goals and the objectives that have been identified so far. As we said, the team met together and they took a look and said, what is it that we're going to identify? So I think we've already talked about a lot about these, so I'm not going to go through them in detail. All these have to do with academics and personal growth of each district student, and that's the work we're in. We can't ignore that. We are here to educate kids. We talked about transparent communication. These are the objectives that were identified for transparent communication. Business and operations, we also talked about those, and the information is there. This is just a snapshot. I know it's small, but in the packet you see larger pictures of this. This is just an example of one of the goals, the objective, the action step, the timeline, and the person responsible. So the team that has worked on the goals and objectives, this is what the document looks through for every one of the objectives that's been identified. But I just took one out of that packet so that you can see what it looks like. That is the end of our presentation. I want to say to you, as we complete this, there is no more important work that you could do other than focusing on the students. Carl Boyd says nobody rises to lower expectations, and nobody does. If you don't set high expectations for yourself, if you really don't try to jump over the moon in what you're doing for students, if you don't really try to move forward and really show not only this community, but not only the south side of Chicago, not only the state of Illinois, but really become a world-class community. And it's something that can be done. The community is ready for it. You are ready for it. We heard it in all of the comments that we heard, as well as the conversations that we had. This district is ready to take off. In fact, as Shelia and I talked, I said, stand back and watch us soar. We are going places. You're going places if you decide you want to go places and not maintain the status quo. You've already demonstrated that you want to go places because you put together a strategic plan. And a strategic plan is the really jumping off point for taking this district to the next level. It's been a pleasure working with all of you. We will entertain any questions from any of the board members that you may have at this time, and then we will move on. If there are no questions, thank you very much.
You said that there was a difference of opinion between the parents, students, and teachers on certain matters. Is that unusual? And the differences, were they within the usual parameters that you find?
I think it's not unusual. However, I think that we want to be sure that, and that's why I said we have to have really some way to measure what success looks like. So what parents think success is for their children, and perhaps what we think success is for the children, may not be at the same level because it hasn't been defined. So it becomes even more important to really define what is success? So if a kid is successful at the end of kindergarten, what skills should that child have? Then you have everybody on the same page, because we're all looking at the same definition. But if we have not defined that, then everybody has in their own mind what success is. And so it's really important that those definitions are defined so that everybody in the community, as well as within the district, knows what that is.
Thank you for,
Thank
coming. Since I have been on board for like 9 years, we've done a lot of strategic plans and this is similar to the ones that we've done before. But your last comment that you made was one of the things that I ran on the board for, and I said in my comments on my cards that I passed out, that if a students truly do not have expectations, they'll never know how far to jump. And that's what I've always believed, because if we don't set the expectations high for our students, if the parents don't believe in our students, they will never know how high they can go. And so when I speak to different groups of people, that's one of the things I've been saying quite a bit about, is students need to know that they can if we give them the opportunity. Because if the opportunity is not there for them, and we don't give it to them, like that office down there where we have the technology, we've always had some expectations for our children. Now we just have to, when I joined the board, this school was at 80%. And the only thing that was missing was 10% of parents' total involvement and children believing in themselves. And so right about now, I'm hoping that this is a new beginning again, and I'm tired of starting over again and again. But thank you for that.
Well, it's been a pleasure, and I would leave you with this also, that parents are not keeping the good kids at home. They're sending us the best that they have. And so I always believe that we have to work with the children we have, take them from where they are to where they can go. And that is our job to do that. And I said, if it wasn't for these kids, none of us would have a job.
Right.
So therefore, we have a responsibility to educate these children at a very high level. And it's something that can be done. But it also becomes important, a strategic plan, because I've gone to, as I said, I've worked in a number of districts. I've seen strategic plans sit on the shelf. It cannot sit on the shelf. So a district may have done strategic plans over the years, but if you do not operationalize that plan and breathe life into it, and let that be the document that guides the work that takes place within the district, nothing will happen. So just to have words, and you know what, we owe it to our community members as well as to our staff, etc., because we said 338 people participated in this. So to ask them to participate in something and we don't take it seriously and move it to the next level, shame on us. So we have a responsibility to take this, move it forward, and really see it come to life. Thank you.
The only thing that I feel is missing right about now, though, is that we really have to get our parents and teach them how to work with their children. I have a 3-year-old grandson that can come in here and he can start telling his alphabet, even a 1-year-old, and sounds of the alphabet. But we really need to help parents, because sometimes when we spank them or we go at them, we're sort of taking the wind out of their learning ability. And we really have to sort of embrace it, and we have to start almost at birth, like swimming, almost at birth, 6 months later. We need to start helping the parents, because the parents are going to work every single day. And when they come home, they're tired. So we really need to give them the opportunity of somehow we're going to have to reach those parents in need, because when you drive into your garage and you're tired and a kid comes up to you and say, I'm home now, home, you start dinner, you forget. And they don't really understand it. As they're driving home in a car as a parent, you could be on the phone talking to your kids and asking them their timetables and how to, just asking questions. What's 2 times 2? And you can teach in the car as you're driving. Even as you're teaching during dinner, you can teach them how to read the measuring cup. So we have to have a way that we can really get into homes and help our parents help their children because their children will come back and take care of us.
Yes.
I mean, that's not what we're supposed to be looking for, but, you know.
I always said I would hate to be in a hospital room and look up, open my eyes and look up and see a student who never learned to read. Taking care, who's responsible for taking care of me. So you're right. It behooves all of us, whether we have kids or not, that our lives are in the hands of these children because they will become the adults and we will become senior citizens, et cetera, and depending on them to do things for us. And if they have not learned, shame on us. So thank you, and I can go on and on talking about what you brought up because parents are important and have to be a part of the solution. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Collins. I appreciate you. Thank you. There will be no committee reports tonight.
Audience to visitors. In order for all community members to be heard and to be able to conduct the business of the district, individuals who wish to address the board must fill out a card before the meeting and hand it to the board secretary. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. Board policy 2.230 states that the president may deny an individual the opportunity to speak if the individual has previously addressed the board on the same subject within the past 2 months. Remarks by any individual addressing the board which would reflect adversely on the character or motives of any person are out of order. Attacks in the form of inferences, insinuations, and innuendos against the character or motives of any person are out of order as well. We have 2 comment cards. Veronica Franklin.
There was a lawsuit that Dr. Alfred entered against me, former board president Eric Perkins, and current board member Carolyn Williams. And there were a lot of things in that lawsuit. There were 45 different complaints. And we didn't learn about a lot of it until June this year. It was filed in March, but a lot happened that we knew nothing about. And so then it was voluntarily dismissed by Dr. Alfred, and stated that it was voluntarily dismissed with the 3 defendants agreeing to the settlement, of which we knew nothing about. So of course there could have been an agreement, and had we known about it, there still would not have been any agreement. So representing ourselves in court, Wednesday, we went back before the judge and asked him to review the case and to dismiss it pursuant to plaintiff's request. And we got our request granted in under 2 minutes, which means that everything that we submitted to the judge, all the supporting documentation, the judge saw it as valid. He saw it as a lot of wrongs that were falsified. He saw it as a case that was frivolous that never should have happened. So as a result of that, I'm asking, did we pay out $25,000 on the settlement? Did I like to know if we could get the money back for the community? Because the judge agreed with us that that never should have happened.
I'm sorry, but that's not true, but I'm not going to go into any details, and I think that the board members are entitled to the truth, but that is not good. You did go to court the other day, but I'm sorry, Dr. Clinton, but my name has been slandered enough, and it is not going to happen any further. However, they did go to court, and what happened was the judge took their names off of the suit, and that was it, but nothing else changed. Thank you.
I will post all of the documentation. My second question would be, when there was flyers that went around recently, and I guess it was some sort of protest that was about to take place, and a letter went out from that office to the staff, kind of telling them what their behavior expectations are per board policy in recent past where there was an employee of the district who actually did drop horrible language, lost control, did not behave in a professional manner, and nothing was done for that employee. And so I want to make sure, because our employees are afraid to speak. I'm so glad they spoke with you guys, but they're afraid to speak because of retaliation and backlash. And so I want to make sure that if our employees want to exercise their First Amendment rights and become a part of anything, whatever the protest is, speak at a board meeting, etc., that the disciplinary actions across the board will be the same.
Mrs. Franklin, on your first question, we'll get something out in the mail to you or email you and let you know. On your second question, we will do the same. Thank you so much.
And from the last meeting, 3 weeks ago, I still haven't gotten a response to that, and it's late, so I get those.
I will address the board, and thank you.
Dwight Morton from Emerge Online Math Tutor.
Good evening, everyone. So, I had a great presentation. It was incredible. The best one you've ever seen. I noticed the problem with the smart board, so I decided I wouldn't put everyone through that again. So, I figured I couldn't have my presentation without taking my investment from Kingdoms in this one. So thank you very much for the opportunity to speak for the board, good evening, board president, city council senate, as well as board members, community members. My name is Dwight Morton. I am a teacher, but surprisingly, I still get nervous about speaking, so I'll try to remember to read.
Can you put in a microphone?
Absolutely. So the purpose of my presence here, so there's a few reasons. One is I want to introduce myself. I am the owner and founder of Emerge Online Math Tutoring. Believe it or not, I've been a math teacher for 16 years. I was educated. So I'm preparing, I talked to my 6-year-old daughter. I recognize the time and clock is also on time. So my daughter said I should tell a joke. So, it's okay if I walk around? Okay. So basically, I'm a math teacher. I educated in Detroit Public Schools. Earned my math degree at Wayne State. It felt like graduating from Harvard. I operate Emerge Online Math Tutoring. It's a live, interactive math tutoring service. The great thing about so basically, I'm a teacher. I love educating students. I try to avoid politics. I do best with working with students, getting them to be successful. I just resigned from a position, grade school, Thornton Township High School. So my goal is just to make an introduction so I can possibly get a relationship with the school board in order to deliver online services to students. Questions about this presentation so far before I continue? Questions from the community?
So, online tutoring, does that mean that they go online and they are talking to a person, or they are looking at data and problems on the screen? How is the student assisted with online tutoring?
So, online has improved. My students are online. They see me. If they choose to turn on their camera, I see them. If there's a homework assignment, I pull the homework assignment up. I'm able to make annotations on the document. They see the annotations in real time. We use technology called two-way communication or voice over internet protocol. So it allows me to communicate with you just like we communicate over the phone. Think of it like Skype. So, or better yet, FaceTime. But the ability to show students the document as well as communicate with them. I have 95.4% of my students feel that the online sessions is the same as face-to-face or better than face-to-face. And by face-to-face, I mean like being in the same physical space. It's incredible. Any questions from the community members? Great question. Depends on the subject. If we're going SAT prep, I would say 10 students. It really can go up to like 30, but as a teacher, you always want to make sure that the teacher-student ratio stays at an effective rate. So I try to limit it to 5 students. If it's for the purpose of teaching everyone the same material, we have 20 students like a classroom. Also a great question. So the way I envisioned that it was set up is the school would post the information, we would have regular meeting times, so students would know on Monday, Wednesday, they log in at 5 o'clock. I have the ability to let you know that these are the students who signed up. There was 10 students who were supposed to be present, only 8 showed up. I can provide some parents as well as teachers with a list of which students showed up.
Can the teachers pick the students, or can the students' parents say, I want the parents?
That's a great question. So my goal is to build a bridge. The board obviously has a decision. My goal is looking forward to building bridges with the community to make sure that whatever the board identifies as areas of weaknesses, I can work with the community to help that become a success. So I wouldn't come in and try to tell the board or tell the parents which students should be identified. I'm a competent math teacher, so you can give me your either 25%, your middle 50%, your upper 25%, and I'll make sure that they grow. So, incredible questions tonight. The parents, so I'm a parent, I have a 6-year-old and a 9-year-old. My goal would be to work with the board to come up with a plan that the school board could see if there's funds in the budget. My goal is also to make it affordable. One of my competitors, K12.com, are much better than them. They have partnerships with schools, but they tend to charge somewhere like $700 per student for the school year. For many school districts, that can be a lot. So I'm looking forward to, again, engaging in the conversation and coming up with an affordable price to make sure that, one, I can make sure I feed my family, because my wife appreciates my time outside. And the other one is to make sure I can just have the time to be successful in making sure that students here reach the goals.
So who pays for this? The parents pay for this, or does the school pay for this? And what's the difference between you and the capital that's on the internet?
So the short answer to the first question would be that the board, I envision, would carry a majority of that. I understand that parents, the school board has a pool of resources from the community, so I'm sure community members will support the idea that they pay the taxes. The hope would be that there are resources with the funds they've already given to the school board to make sure that they can afford a service like mine. Khan Academy is a video. So some students who are independent learners can watch a video, pick up information, but some students can't. My online service is interactive, so if I'm introducing the concept, we have a two-way conversation. I use Socratic method of teaching, I'm asking questions, and I'm listening to responses to gauge whether or not the students I'm teaching understand the concept. So Khan Academy is great, I use it, but online service with a live teacher is way better.
Because I do that, you know, I sort of go on there and play with that students, but
With Khan Academy?
it's, you know, it's interesting how they're doing, you know, you ask a question or how they,
You're seeing your person, so it's like person to person.
Absolutely. It's basically like classroom teaching. I can do everything online that I can do in the classroom. The only thing I can't do online that I can do in the classroom is touch the students. We would all agree that there's a reason the teacher should touch the students. So as far as if a student needs an issue with, so I teach math obviously, so students being able to use graphic calculators is important. We're talking about SAT prep, as well as getting them ready for college. So I can show them how to use a calculator. There's nothing that I can't show them in the online setting that I couldn't show them if I was. Basically, I can show them the same things online that I can show them if I was in the classroom.
You work with the classroom teacher personally, I mean, I don't know that, not right.
So my goal would be to, again, build bridges. I respect classroom teachers. I'm a classroom teacher. So I definitely don't want to come into the classroom, talk to the classroom teacher trying to dictate. My goal is to listen to the classroom teacher, listen to the parents, figure out what the needs of the students, and then work in a collaborative relationship to figure out how to help the students go from here to where they need to be at. So I've concluded that most students tend to you lose their attention after about 45 minutes, 30 to 45 minutes. So I think short and powerful is best, so 45 minutes at best. I can go for an hour, but I think, again, sometimes students' attention, it's all about the engagement. So just like if I were in a classroom, I want to make sure that it's interactive so that students don't get disengaged. In an online setting, I think it's best to shoot for a target of 30 to 45 minutes. Students were able to pick up, and it depends on the format. So if it's a matter of teaching the official curriculum, I think teach it in 30 minutes and then give that last 15 minutes for students to engage in questions. The students who are able to demonstrate that they understand the material, they can log off, and then students who still have questions, they'll be able to ask questions to our teachers. Yes. So it depends on what the purpose is. Like as a classroom teacher, again, I use the credit teaching method of asking questions. I've developed a craft. I think anybody's been teaching for any many years, you develop a craft where if a student says, ask a question, you understand that question? Yeah. You can kind of hear that there's doubt. So now I can provide a sample problem. Or show me how to do this problem. What would you do first? So basically through questioning and assessing them, it's like the ongoing assessments that you would do in the classroom. You can do ongoing assessments also online. Then it's a matter of, again, what the goal is. If my goal is to partner with the school district, students to be successful in some of the assessments, the sum of the assessment results will dictate. You can have a control group, you can have a group that works with our company, and you can see whether or not the growth from that control group was the same as the growth of the group that works with my company. So it just depends on the purpose. But in teaching, again, I use ongoing assessments just like I would in the classroom. So anytime a person works with students, I think it's definitely necessary to send them through a background check. I'm certified to teach in Illinois as well as Maryland, so I'm still bound by ethical standards just as I would be in the classroom as well as the teachers I employ. So the typical protocol for a teacher to go to a school district, they get hired, they go through a background check. It's the same thing. The staff go to the background check and I work with the students to make sure that the students are in a safe environment. That's extremely important, make sure that the students are in a safe environment, whether it's in class or whether it's online.
This is assuming every child has access to some form of technology, so it's like school is building after school.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you for bringing that up. So I worked at Thornton, which is in Harvey. So Harvey is socioeconomic. I think the average income was $26,000. Any given year, the 4 years I was there, 85% at least had cell phones. So students can access an online session with a cell phone.
Thank you, Mr. Moore.
Thank you, sir. Thank you again, board.
Recess to closed session, discuss appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, collective negotiation, bargaining, and board self-evaluation.
Brown?
Thank you.
Yes. Edgecombe?